Lemonada.
Hello, we're here for More Happier, a podcast where we get more of the Happier podcast. It's a weekend vibe with some easier listening. Hey, Elizabeth.
Hi, Grouch.
Today we'll talk about a super fun question that I've been posing to everyone I talk to, and we will explore a meal-related quirk. But first, something making us happier. Elizabeth, what's making you happier?
Gretch, what is making me happier is using an actual physical planner. I don't really do this usually. I mean, I have a calendar on my phone, but I usually don't use a planner. Sarah, my writing partner, is a huge fan of planners and has been for years. But I just on a whim decided this is going to be the year of the planner for me. It's not on my 25 for 25 list. It came out of me just realizing I have so many things I'm tracking. I wanted different ways to do it. So I track my weight every day in the Happier app.
Yes.
But I'm now tracking reading War and Peace every day. And I wanted to be able to see that on paper. And also I wanted to see my Orange Theory classes on paper. So I got a legend planner, which is what Sarah likes. So I just said, okay, I'll get what Sarah has. And I have to tell you, I am loving it.
Oh, that's so great. There's something about an app. There's pros and cons of an app, and there's pros and cons of paper. So it's great that you sense that paper is what you want for these certain things that you're doing in 2025.
Yes. And I think it has to do with if I do things at different times of day.
Yes.
So like the app I use every morning at like 7:30. But with the War and Peace and with my classes, they're all at different times. So I'm worried I'll forget if I don't have the thing there on my desk that I see and then triggers me writing it down.
Oh, well, I can't wait to hear how it goes out. It'll be a great keepsake at the end of the year.
Well, yes, because I'm writing down books I'm reading, little ideas I might have for the podcast.
Yeah.
It's a great place just to collect information.
Oh, that's so fun.
So I may now be a planner person, Gretchen. We will see.
Sarah is such a planner person. Maybe it's finally just rubbed off on you just because she's just so into it. She's such the bullet journal queen, every kind of journal, the happiness project. Yeah.
The funny thing is I accidentally got the same color journal she has. So I got to put stickers on it or something.
Sure, because you do not want to drive away from Ojai with the wrong planner. You'd have to drive right back, I'm sure.
Yes. What about you, Gretch? What is making you happier?
Well, we got this lake house. Jamie and I, dream come true. We have this house. And, for a long time, I was like, well, it's so much responsibility. There's all this time, energy, and money. I don't like work, really, like errands and things like that. But I love it. I really, really do love it. And it's worth it.
Yeah.
It's like before you get a dog, you're like, oh, it's so much work. Who can be bothered? And then you have the dog and you're like, it's worth it. And when we were thinking about getting it, I was very worried that I would regret it, that we would feel like, oh my gosh, we bit off more than we can chew and we took on this big thing and it's just not worth it.
Life was so simple before.
Right. And, people did say like, oh, well, you got to be prepared. And I do kind of have a lot of regret. It's interesting. Jamie just pointed this out to me. He's like, oh, you with your regrets. And I was like, oh, you're right. I do have a lot of regrets, with like small things, not like getting a dog, but like, oh, I bought this item in black instead of blue or whatever. I overthink things sometimes. And so I was worried that I would come to that. Jamie really wanted it. So he was definitely taking the lead on driving it. And I thought, well, I hope that we're not getting it because he thinks it's going to be great. And then in the end, all of my fears will come true. But it's wonderful. We're so fortunate. We're so incredibly fortunate to be able to do it. And I feel that. Like, I really, really, truly do feel that. And so it is really making me happier. I feel so, so, so lucky. We both do.
Well, and having been there, I get it. I love being there.
Well, that's part of what made me happy is it was so fun to have like all the family there. And it was just like so fun and so different. For all of us. So
different. You haven't lived in a house. I mean, not that you're living there full time, but just being in a house is different for you.
Absolutely. No, it's a completely different feeling. Yeah.
All right, Gretch, coming up, we have a fun discussion about quality screen time. But first, this break.
Elizabeth, you and I, we love our dogs, Barnaby, Nacho, Daisy, and we want to feed them a healthy diet. That is an investment in their health, their longevity. It keeps them from having to make visits to the vet. And one thing I know about Barnaby is he loves his food. And with Maeve, I just poured the food out of the bag and serve it frozen, and he's excited to eat it.
Your dog is biologically primed to digest and absorb key nutrients from an unprocessed, low-carb, high-protein, raw meat diet. And Maeve's raw food diet is formulated to meet your dog's needs. Most dog parents see results in 28 days or less. Make the switch to raw today. Right now, Maeve is offering 20% off your first order at meetmaeve.com/happier. That's spelled MAEV. Go to meetmaeve.com/happier to receive 20% off your first order. That's meetmaev.com/happier. After the holiday hustle, it is so nice to get the family back into a routine, and part of that is giving your home a little TLC. Now, Gretchen, you know I love tablescapes, not just at the holidays, but all year round. And one thing I've really been wanting are some gorgeous napkin rings. And I found the best napkin rings at Wayfair. They had such an amazing selection. I got some silver napkin rings from Juliska that I'm absolutely thrilled with. And they have stuff for any home decor style. Whatever you need to freshen up your home, they've got it.
There's something for every style and every home, no matter what your space or budget, and free and easy shipping, even on the big stuff. They'll even help you set it up.
Give your home the refresh it needs with Wayfair. Head to wayfair.com right now.
That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Okay, it's time for quality screen time. And listen, this is a question that I am asking everybody. I think it's such a fun mental puzzle. You and I are going to talk about it. And then we encourage listeners to stop and think of their own answers, because it's fun to see what you can come up with and then hear what other people say. Like every time somebody suggests something new for this list, I'm like, oh, it's another one. It's fun to generate examples of things. So
yes,
the question for this quality screen time is, okay, thinking about movies, or it could be a TV show, but these are all movies. There's some movies that stand for a concept. Now, I've asked you this and explained it to you enough so that you could be thinking about it, but I'll explain it and then you can say the example that you gave me before, and then I will give you all the examples that I've come up with. Okay. So the idea is, a movie stands for a concept so clearly, and it's a concept of something that we experience in everyday life that is so familiar that to invoke that concept, to convey to somebody what you're thinking and feeling, all you do is reference a movie, and they're like, oh, I get it. So for instance, all you have to do to somebody is say, hey, it's Groundhog Day. And everybody knows what that means. I'm in a day that's just repeating over and over and over and over again, and I can't escape it. It's like Groundhog Day perfectly captures that concept. So when I explained this to you, I was like, give me an example so I know you understand that I've explained my idea. And what was the example you gave?
Well, Gretchen, the first one that popped in my head was When Harry Met Sally, which to me was best friends falling in love. So you go. It's a When Harry Met Sally situation.
Yes. When Harry Met Sally, people know that that's what that means. Okay. So let's go through some examples. And I've been thinking about these examples and I've been asking everybody I know. So this is a long list. And I think it's so fun because it's true. These are movies that so masterfully convey an idea. So one is The Matrix. Everybody knows what you mean by The Matrix.
Sliding doors is a big one. People say all the time.
Yes. It's sliding door situation. You get it. This is interesting. So Eliza said Citizen Kane. And what I think that the concept of Citizen Kane is, there's something deep in your past that people don't know about that is influencing you. So if you're like, oh, well, there's a Citizen Kane situation, you're like, that to me is what that means. I felt like that was sort of an edge case, but interesting.
Yes. Rosebud.
Yes.
Truman Show. And that's how the reality show of it all, of course.
Well, in fact, Truman Show is so neatly describes a concept that there is something called Truman Show syndrome. So that is actually a syndrome that people can show because it so perfectly explains what people are thinking if they're having a Truman Show set of beliefs.
There's also, Gretchen, gaslight, which I feel like gaslight right now is one of the most popular phrases out there. People are always talking about being gaslit. And a lot of people don't know that there's a movie called Gaslight that comes from.
Right,
The guy
exactly.
was turning the gaslights off and on and telling his wife that he was not doing that.
Yes, right. So it's like making someone feel like they're insane and that they don't understand reality because you're secretly tricking them. Yeah, that's kind of an example like Kleenex, where like sort of the brand name has come to stand for the place so much that it's lost its sort of brand identity and just become a name for a thing. Gaslight has just become a verb. Another one is her. I think people are talking about her a lot these days because of all of the rapid advancements in AI.
Yes. Sophie's Choice. That's a big one.
Yeah.
People say that a lot.
Yeah, for like a gut-wrenching, impossible decision where there's no choice to be made. And then related to Sophie's Choice, kind of like a catch-22, where there's like a no-win situation with, people are trapped in contradictory rules. So those are slightly different concepts, but related.
Yes. There's also Freaky Friday, which is switching roles or perspectives,
Yeah.
often through a dramatic or unexpected reversal.
Yeah.
So
right.
you can say it's a Freaky Friday situation.
Yeah.
for
Well,
sure.
that might happen to you, Elizabeth, in Hollywood, where like someone's assistant becomes the director or something like that. And you're like, okay, Freaky Friday. Fatal Attraction. That's where someone goes, you have some kind of romantic connection and it goes wildly wrong.
Yes. Zelig, which is a person somehow changes his appearance and behavior so he fits in everywhere and pops up everywhere.
Yeah, somebody like that. Now, here's one that this is a movie that I barely remember, but it's being there. And in being there, like this very, very simple and naive person is sort of launched almost accidentally out into the world. And everybody around him perceives them to be having like these deep insights because they like attribute so much to it. It's kind of like in Big, where the kid, they're like, oh my gosh, he's got all these deep insights because he's actually like a child. Or if you know Mr. Dick and David Copperfield, where he's this simple person, but everybody is like, oh, he's so wise. But I don't know that being there now is like, because it's such an old movie and it was never such a huge movie, I don't know that you could invoke that. I have never ever seen the movie Forrest Gump. Does Forrest Gump have that meaning? I don't know.
I don't think so. I mean, he is more of a Zelig, I guess I would say.
Okay.
Because he pops up everywhere.
Okay. I just think this is super fascinating. I would love if people sent us more examples because I'm sure there's many, many more examples. But it's so satisfying. And then, Elizabeth, we were sort of also talking about how sometimes a character can stand for a whole set of attributes, or like you just refer to someone, like you just say, oh, well, someone is like Scrooge. And oh, this is like some super mean, miserly person. Like, oh, Scrooge.
Or a Jekyll and Hyde. They're nice half the time and really not nice the other half.
Or you say it's Wizard of Oz. There's like a little man behind the curtain. It's like not the person that it's cracked up to be.
Another one, Gretch, is Godfather. The Godfather, someone where you have to always kiss their ring.
Mary Poppins is like the person who's like a magical caretaker of children.
Yes.
So anyway, I love this. I've been thinking about different pleasures, and I feel like there's a better word for this, but I'm calling it in my mind the pleasure of examples. And I notice this a lot of time when I'm doing Little Happiers, where I'm talking about a principle, and then if I give 2 or 3 examples, or like here we've had many examples, there's like a kind of an intellectual pleasure. I guess it's a kind of satisfaction of curiosity, or like it's the pleasure of seeing examples that are exemplifying an idea or a principle. And I don't know why, but now that I'm looking for the pleasure of examples, I see it around a lot, that we often are trading examples, or like even something like, have you ever done the thing where like, let's just tell riddles? Like nobody knows any riddles, but people will randomly come up with riddles. There's just something about having examples that's satisfying. I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah. The examples, to me, it's like completing a mental jigsaw puzzle.
Yes.
It's like making the pieces fit together. And that's just satisfying.
Exactly. It's that thing snapping into place and like fitting just perfectly. You're like, yes, Groundhog Day. It perfectly exemplifies a concept. And there's just something intellectually satisfying about that. It makes me very happy.
Good.
I love identifying a new pleasure.
Good. Well, Gretchen, what is our spotlight on a tool this week?
Okay, well, if you want to feel happier this year and you're not sure where to start, I have more than 1 million. Okay, yes, I have to pause and give myself credit. There are more than 1 million subscribers to my newsletter.
Wow.
It is free. It is once a week. It's called 5 Things Making Me Happy. I have so much fun doing this every week. It is a highlight of my week to think of what I'm going to put on there. And so each Friday, you get a roundup of what's making me happy. It's like observations, insights, things that are funny, funny words that I've learned, all kinds of stuff, but just things making me happy. It is free. You can sign up at happiercast.com/newsletter. I love it. And listen, you're starting a newsletter, and I think you're really going to just enjoy doing it because I love doing my newsletter.
Yes, Sarah and I are all about our new Substack that we're launching. By the way, if anybody wants to sign up, it's at happierInHollywoodpod@substack.com.
Newsletter it up. They really are an
Yes.
engine of happiness. It makes it much more fun to read your email if you're getting a fun newsletter, I find.
Yes, I agree. Okay, Gretch, coming up, you've been meaning to ask me a question about mealtime, but first, this break. You know how sometimes a meal leaves you energized and other times sluggish, foggy, or even hungrier? That may be your glucose talking. Foods that are sugar and carb heavy, and you know my experience here, cause your body's glucose levels to spike, often followed by a crash. This matters because it turns out 88% of us have suboptimal metabolic health. So glucose could be the next big thing to track when it comes to health. That's why we're excited about Lingo, a new bio-wearable from Abbott that tracks your glucose in real time.
I've been wearing Lingo for weeks now, and I've learned that for my body, if I move around after I eat a meal, my spike is much more gradual, much lower. And so I've learned that I just need to get up and move around after I eat. What works for me might work very differently for you, but that's what works for my body. To see how your body responds to food and learn what you can do to improve your metabolism, try Lingo. It starts at $49 for a 2-week plan, no prescription needed. For a limited time, save 10% on your first order with Happier at HelloLingo.com.
The Lingo glucose system is for users 18 years and older, not on insulin. It is not intended for diagnosis of diseases, including diabetes. For more information, please visit HelloLingo.com/US.
Are you still quoting 30-year-old movies? Have you said cool beans in the past 90 days? Do you think Discover isn't widely accepted? If this sounds like you, you're stuck in the past. Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. And every time you make a purchase with your card, you automatically earn cash back. Welcome to the now. It pays to discover. Learn more at discover.com/creditcard. Based on the February 2024 Nielsen report.
Okay, Gretch, there's something you've been meaning to ask me.
Yeah. So it's about mealtime. So my question is, when you eat a meal, do you eat one item, like all of it, and then you move on to the next item? Or do you alternate among, and do you just have a little bit of this, a little bit of that? Or are you like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3? How do you eat?
Gretch, I alternate. I am dedicated to alternating.
Okay.
I must alternate. In fact, if I'm given like part of a meal at a restaurant, but not the other part yet, I'll wait for the other part. I need to alternate.
Okay.
Unless it's an actual appetizer. But usually if I'm getting an appetizer, I say I want it at the same time as my meal.
Interesting. And why is that? You like variety?
I don't know. I just like the feeling of going around. I don't know what it is. It's just I've always been that way. I'm very dedicated to it.
How did I not know this about you?
Well, I always think of you as being an alternator. Are you an alternator?
I'm not like a 1, 2, 3. I just do what I feel like. I feel like my enjoyment's more when I switch back and forth. Do you do like one bite, one bite, one bite?
No, not necessarily. I don't keep that close a track, but it probably isn't far from that.
Yeah.
Now, what I will say, Adam is a person who eats one thing, then another thing. And even after all these years, I'm not used to it. And I'll say to him like, oh, you don't want to eat your corn? Oh, you don't want to eat your, sprouts? Yeah. And he's like, no, I'm going to eat them. I just haven't gotten to them yet because he eats one at a time.
Well, see, okay, does he clean his plate?
I don't know. That's a good question. I haven't honed in on that.
I think one of the reasons that I alternate is that I don't want to get too full and want to stop eating and then not really enjoy something like, oh, I haven't eaten any of the broccoli because I'm too full from the salmon or whatever. And so I want to like have some salmon, have some broccoli, have some salmon, have some broccoli. So then if I run out of appetite, but I could imagine if you're somebody where you're like, well, I'm going to eat everything on my plate. Some people just do that. Then you wouldn't care about that because you're like, well, I'm going to eat all the sprouts anyway.
Right. That's a good question. It's funny because, I don't know what this says about us.
Yeah, who knows?
You're one or the other. Nobody does sometimes one and sometimes the other.
No, I think that's right.
It's hardwired.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. Okay. It's not a deep question, but it's an interesting question. And it's funny how it's something to notice about other people.
Yeah.
I'm so inattentive to things. Like, that's why I had to write my book, Life in 5 Senses, because it's so hard for me to pay attention to like what's happening right in front of me. I want to pay attention to the people in my family. I know none of them are like all of one thing and then they move on to the next, because that I would have noticed, but I don't know if they have any other quirky ways of eating. So I'm gonna investigate that.
Yes. Pay attention at your next meal together.
Yes.
Okay, Gretchen, what is our quotation this week?
Well, I love an aphorism, and this comes from Franz Kafka from the Zurau aphorisms. He writes, "It is not necessary that you leave the house. Remain at your table and listen. Do not even listen, only wait. Do not even wait. Be wholly still and alone. The world will present itself to you for its unmasking. It can do no other. In ecstasy, it will writhe at your feet."
Thought-provoking.
So, Elizabeth, are you feeling happier?
Yes, I am feeling happier. Thank you to Chuck. Bye, Gretch.
Bye, Elizabeth. The best time to start a happiness project is 20 years ago. The second best time is now.
So, Gretchen, do you think all of our listeners who are so bothered by us saying more happier or happy now that we said, are you happy? What's making you happier?
I certainly hope they are happier.
Yeah. I hope we get emails now with people thanking us for taking away this irritation.
Our bit.
Yeah.
Our bit. We've learned our lesson. Our listeners care about grammar, and we respect that.
Yeah.
From the Onward Project.
This message is sponsored by Cologuard. Because of my own health journey, increasing awareness around the importance of colon cancer screening is a mission close to my heart. And one common misconception about screening for colon cancer is that you should start at age 50. But in actuality, if you're at average risk, the recommended age to start screening is 45. And a great use-at-home option to screen for colon cancer is with the Cologuard test. The Cologuard test is a non-invasive, effective, and affordable prescription-based use-at-home colon cancer screening test that looks for both abnormal DNA and blood in your stool. What I really love about the Cologuard test is that it gives the option to screen your way on your time with no need to take time off of work for prep or procedures. Even if you don't have any symptoms, it is so important to test beginning at 45 because many patients with early-stage colon cancer have no symptoms at all and are diagnosed through screening. With zero downtime, no special preparation, and a use-at-home screening test that's delivered right to your door, what more are you waiting for? So if you're 45 or older and at average risk, ask your healthcare provider about screening for colon cancer with the Cologuard test. You can also request a Cologuard prescription today at Cologuard.com/podcast. Do not use the Cologuard test if you've had adenomas, have inflammatory bowel disease, and certain hereditary syndromes, or a personal or family history of colorectal cancer. False positive and negative results may occur. Any positive result should be followed by a colonoscopy, not a replacement for colonoscopy in high-risk patients. The Cologuard test is available by prescription only.